Ba 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 ba.
The guy with the battle penis.
Some people live and some people die.
Shantel VanSanten.
Basement-dwelling, neckbeard, fucking...
And we can do it together.
Spanish Hugh Jackman.
That works.
The quicker picker-upper.
I want to burn my mom's face
I
up.
don't recall, actually.
In fact, I was afraid.
Sinister, even.
With a huge battle penis.
Drop a nug. Broadcasting live from inside the power band, this is The Blah. In this episode, everybody dies. I'm your host, the Wolverine, along with one of my super friends, Czar Higo.
Hello.
And my other super friend, Orange Sassy Squirrel.
Squirrel.
What's up?
AKA C-Lab forever. Welcome to the show, folks. This week we are wrapping up Season 2 of The Boys. Before we get into that, folks, don't forget to follow us on all social media using the handle @EBD Podcast. You can find us there and join in on the conversation, make requests, tell us how much you hate us, whichever you like. Currently, we have many conversations going on Instagram. That's where most of the action seems to be happening. So please jump in and join us there. All right, let's get to it.
High level, I really want to hear what you guys have to say, considering I nerdgasmed out last year and read all the comics. I'm curious your thoughts.
Okay, so we had one of the listeners sent us a message on Facebook the other day talking about how dark it was, and I kind of did the social media equivalent of no, don't want to see it, blah, 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 blah. And I was getting nervous, but man, was he ever right about going dark. Like, this went totally not in the direction I thought it was going to go. For everybody out there, if you remember Season 2, Part 1, Chad wasn't as bullish, and Ben and I were taking the standpoint that more was yet to come, and we really hadn't seen really the sort of the meat of what was going to happen, certainly with Homelander. And this went in a direction that I did not think it was going to go. It was super dark, dare I say, beyond dark, sinister even. In bringing the Nazi party into it, it just absolutely blew my mind. And so many of the things that happened, I loved it. I wasn't having an expectation of whatever, roses. So I absolutely loved it, but it was super twisted. I thought it was fantastic, though.
Nice.
Better than or equal to the first season for you at a high level, Kev?
They're so different. Like, the Season 1 now, looking at both of them now, Season 1 was like the ramp up into this. Like, this is just the continuation of where the story was going as told by this television production, because as we know, the comic is very different.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't compare them. I can't say that it's better or worse. It's so different. I would say they're equal.
Right.
I'll try and keep it short and sweet here. I would echo a lot, I think, of what Kev said. I didn't necessarily see the story going in the direction that it did end up going. And by the finale, I actually found it to be pretty satisfying. So, you know, if not in its entirety, at least in some of the moments that were going on. So I thought they handled things pretty well. You know, it's hard to compare to the first season because the first season was the first time I was introduced to this and it was fresh to me.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I suppose because I read the comics in preparation for our Season 1 show, I kind of was aware of where it could go. And so it kind of put me in a position where I could guess maybe with more accuracy where this season would go. I wouldn't say that I succeeded in that guess because satisfyingly and surprisingly they kind of stepped away from the comic a bit in terms of just like, I don't know, I've heard people talk about the Expanse show versus the books where they say the show is quite different but it gets to the same place, and I feel like that is a kind of apt description of this. Like, they do some different stuff and different people do things that other people did in the comics, and some people live and some people die, you know, like we'll get to it later, but the Becca Butcher death in the end of the season is a good example of something that, you know, she was dead all the way through the comic, but the creators and writers of this chose to keep her alive, and I think for the better. It was quite an interesting arc, but it ended up in the same place. You know, Butcher's now, you know, without his wife. So yeah, my high level is it's still a super interesting universe. I don't know how I feel in terms of just like I haven't chewed on it long enough in terms of how I feel about how on the nose it is with current events and kind of right-wing craziness. I think given time and space, I'll probably really appreciate the use of it in this season. I think it probably will have been quite a good, component of the story. But I feel like nowadays you watch a complete shit show of a show and look outside the window and you're like, it's the same, So it's kind of hard to watch, dark fiction when we live in a kind of a dark time period. So I think with a bit of time, I'll feel probably even happier about this season. So yeah, I mean, staying high level, I was really nervous halfway through in the first part that it was going to completely go to shit, and I'm glad it did not go to shit, and it did pretty well. I don't think it did as well as the first season, but probably for a combination of the first season is the intro to the whole universe, like you said, or both of you guys kind of said that. And then I think the only minor gripe that we'll get into as we dig in is like what I said in the first episode of this season, which is they kind of took their time being a bit all over the place with the story, but they did have a lot of threads to tie together. So, I mean, execution wasn't horrible by any means, and I'm glad that my nervousness wasn't really founded.
Wow. I'm impressed. That would make the second show in a very short period of time that we are all of us are on the same motorcycle. We have to bust out the sidecar, man.
I think the sidecar metaphor is good because I don't know if I'm on the same motorcycle, but I'm certainly kind of on the same motorcycle. Like, I'm not in love with this season, but
all right, I'm into it, man. Anytime we're close to riding on the same motorcycle, I get warm feelings inside because we're friends, and that sounds like a fun trip. But I'm down with the fact that you want to be in the sidecar.
I'd like to pose a couple of somewhat high-level plot questions to you guys.
Ooh, I love it. Go.
Cool.
What did you guys think of the Butcher and Becca arc in the sense of the fact that, it concluded throughout this season?
I don't know why, but after the first half, I was very convinced that was the last of it. So
same.
If they were going to bring it back, the way they brought it back, I think, was the best possible way to do it. And I think it ended up being a pretty important leg of the story. It definitely ended up being an important leg of the story in a way that I wasn't quite anticipating. So, yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Karl Urban did some fantastic acting.
Dude, friend of the show, Karl Urban is the fucking man.
Yeah.
No doubt.
As well as did
Shantel VanSanten.
Shantel.
What?
It was like our own mini British Tar, like saying it in unison.
Yeah, it was just
Shantel VanSanten is a soaring song.
As free as a mountain bird.
Yeah, Shantel
VanSanten. There, I said it. There's my recording of it.
There it is, on the record.
His eyes should flash with an inborn fire.
Yeah, she was great, man. She's really impressed me. I mentioned last episode that she's one of the main actors in the Apple series For All Mankind, and she's just a powerhouse, man. Super impressive.
I echo what Jarhigo said for the most part. I don't have any expectation going in. I didn't have an expectation. I didn't get my mind in one direction. So when it went in another direction, I was like upset or disappointed or like, oh, wow, I really wish they did X. And it's, obviously I haven't read the comics like you, so that's also coming from a different perspective than you, Chad.
Yeah. And the question was posed just because there is no Becca in the comics, basically.
Right, exactly. I was really glad that her role was expounded on in the second half, or really just in season 2, period. And I like the way they brought her back, because like Ben said, I thought it was kind of over, with the bridge and the let's have sex in the car part and all that, and we all commented that she just crushed it at the end of episode 4 or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Season 2, part 1. And man, she crushed it even more. It's like when your car gets crushed into a cube and then you turn into the Hulk and then you crush it down into an even smaller cube.
It's like a little car diamond.
Exactly right. And that's how I feel she did. I was figuring we would wait to talk about the cast till later, but since we were touching on it, she is just fantastic. I can't say enough good things about her. The death scene, like everything, man, just on point, dialed in. She was in The Flash.
Okay.
The DC show, The Flash, is where I first saw her.
Everybody cares.
Yeah, hey, man, that's where I first saw her, and I thought she was good. That's a little bit more like kind of cotton candy vanilla of a show,
Oh, yeah.
So it really wasn't until this that, we really get to see her freaking bring it. And man, does she ever bring it. She jumped out at me, and Chace Crawford really jumped out at me. But a lot of the characters that had smaller parts, not to digress too hard on the cast, really got a lot more service. I feel like these 4 episodes, or season 2, Maeve, certainly there was more with Maeve.
Yeah.
And everybody was bringing it. And it's undeniable. This show is so well cast.
Just to sprinkle a little bit of the book.
A little, book dust.
Because it's kind of interesting. Like, the book. The Maeve with the 2 guys in bed smoking cigarettes and drinking kind of thing was essentially her entire character in the comics. She just beats the shit out of people in a sparring chamber and just bangs minions. There isn't a hell of a lot, really, to her. So I kind of appreciate, 1, that they don't have such a 2D cardboard character in the show, and 2, kind of nod to it a little bit without going overboard, because it was perfect for that situation, especially with Ashley in the room trying to get her to do something, and she's just like, Ashley, be human for once. Like, that was a great little scene.
Yeah.
It was really...
Oh, yeah.
When I talk about how I found it satisfying, there was lots of little moments like that really, like, they really cemented things in place at the end of this, and hearing Maeve tell Ashley to be human was just excellent, because Ashley is she's such like she's like a total corporate stooge, but yet she's so fucking stressed out that she's pulling her hair out, and she's just every time you see her in the second season, you're like, she just puts you on edge.
Yeah, she's great.
And you half sympathize with her, and then the other half of you is exactly has the same sentiment that Maeve had, and you're like, would you just like fucking quit your job or something? Like, Jesus.
Yeah, chill out. And I love how, like, a post-human is asking her to be human. It's another layer of irony.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. This requires no cul-de-sac. It's just a question. Is she a lesbian in the comics?
I don't recall, actually. Yeah, it's been over a year, so I don't remember.
Let's be fair, she's bisexual.
Oh, right, of course.
I think she is, but I don't believe there's any of the girlfriendy stuff. So I could be wrong on that, but I don't believe so.
This is such a cool show in the sense that they're coming at superheroes from a totally different angle. If all these people had these powers, they would probably just abuse it to sort of keep my statement short, And then they take it and they freaking run with it. And then they tie it to the back of a truck and drag it down the road. It's so great, man. I love how different it is. We've never seen anything quite like this. I mean, there's been stuff done similar to this, but not to this level, man. And it's fantastic. I just love it. The opening of episode 2 was just so dark. In terms of the debauchery, I was using what you said as a segue. Like, they're just such horrible people. And when Homelander and Stormfront are in that alley, and they just crushes the dude's face, and they just start screwing with blood everywhere. I was like, oh my God, this show. Just when I think it can't get more gory, disturbing, and dark and graphic, it finds another foot to dig down into. It's crazy.
Yeah, I feel you on the gore thing, Kev. Like, I kind of mentioned in the last episode on this season, where one thing I appreciated about season 1 was the gore fit. Like, it was intentional and played a part instead of just being gratuitous. And I kind of still feel like most of the gore in this season was gratuitous and it wasn't required. It felt required in the first season. So I do kind of have a bit of a, gripes of Kev about the gore in general, but there were a few moments where I feel like it really fit. So I feel you on the gore.
Same, 100%.
It might be worth shifting gears into some of the episodes, because, I mean, each of these episodes kind of has a bit of sprinkling of all the stuff we've talked about so far, so maybe it makes sense to kind of just go through it a little bit in terms of notes.
Yes.
To kick it off, episode 5 is, in summary, is the Homelander's a war criminal bit, with Butcher having just been dumped, and Starlight and her mom, and Maeve is out as a lesbian now, kind of thing. So it's kind of like transitional. I don't really have any really notes on this episode, because I feel like it really fits into the, like, they're still fucking flailing around with the story and not getting to the goddamn point. So I don't know, what your guys' feelings were on that one, but it wasn't terrible. I just still kind of wanted the story to get going.
Is this the point where Homelander and Stormfront start hooking up?
Yeah, I think they hook up at the end of the episode, right after he gets yelled at by that crowd of people, which was the only kind of really interesting scene for me in that episode.
Yeah. It's sort of the first hints at bumping the story forward, though, I think,
Definitely.
That's sort of like the next thing to happen, or the next thing to develop is the two of them hooking up, so.
Which was interesting.
Yeah.
I definitely kind of got that they're going to be rivals throughout vibe in the first few episodes, so it was kind of an interesting twist that it went the other way.
At the end of the last episode that we did, part 1, we talked about how Homelander is encountering things that he doesn't have the tools to deal with, right? Everything with him is like strength, flying, and laser eyes. So he's kind of flipping out, and now he's starting to kind of manipulate. So he does the thing with Maeve, or he pushes that whole thing along.
Yeah, outs her.
And, he's kind of spinning out a little bit, so he kills those people, becomes the war criminal. And, he's kind of trying to move the chess pieces on the board a little bit, as it were. But while at the same time, he's kind of sucking at it and he's spinning out. And that's when Stormfront's like, hey, come on into my trailer and let me show you how it's done. And we can do it together. And that whole Everybody Needs a Friend song, Thank You for Being My Friend, or whatever that was, that's a theme song for something, too. I'm totally blanking on it right now, but that was a great little music overlay for the makeout at the end of that, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, little side tangent while you're on it, did your appreciation of the music improve at all in this second half, Kev?
Great question.
Because I know you were pretty down on it in the first one.
I was, because I dug what they did the first season, and they just didn't do the same thing, And no, I didn't. I don't really think it improved. In the sense that I noticed a couple of things, but nothing. The whole thing didn't jump out at me as a whole, like it did in Boys season 1 and Umbrella season 2.
Just to tack on to the perfectly timed tangent, I did really enjoy the Billy Joel explanation, and it really helped cement that.
Yes.
Which I thought was great, considering that was one of the main kind of frustrations you had, was the overuse of Billy Joel. So the Huey mom thing was quite a cool scene and really helped flesh him out as a character, for sure.
Great scene.
Huey, you're not 57.
That was great.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, it's different, I think. The soundtrack is different this time around. It's more, I mean, I don't know if if you made a playlist back to back, there's no way I would have enjoyed it more than season 1, but I think it was used differently in this season. Like you said, they seem to throw in songs at a moment where it was really appropriate. So in that way, it was really good. It just didn't have the powerhouse songs that the first season did.
Yeah. This is a random thought, just chucking it out there, but if I remember correctly, we were either in the middle of or coming off of Watchmen, I think, which had an amazing soundtrack. So it kind of wouldn't surprise me if our excitement about other shows' soundtracks would have kept us excited about season 1 soundtrack, which was excellent on its own, but it definitely seemed like it wasn't a focus this time around necessarily, where it was a focus in season 1.
No. Agree. And I forgot about Watchmen. You're right. That was excellent. Up there with Umbrella 2 and season 1 of The Boys. So, yeah. Same, 100%.
100%. Just on the Stormfront relationship thing, to kind of circle back to where we were, I'm still kind of convinced that she wasn't necessarily in love with him per se and was manipulating Homelander, but I don't know. I could go either way. I haven't really digested that enough.
Definitely column A and column B for me. She's sick. I mean, she's twisted. She's been around since 1919. It's 2020. That's 100 years, man.
I get the impression that she'd been around for so long that she, she probably already had her love with Vought. And at this point, anything that furthers her agenda is all that matters to her, call it love or not.
And maybe the secondary psychological thing of not being alone, but probably more what you're saying.
Yeah.
I echoing what Ben said and agreeing, as usual, with Jarhigo.
She clearly manipulates Homelander.
Yeah.
Clearly, you know.
Right. I'm feeling like a manipulation, and you're hot, so I'm going to use you for sex as well. But I already had my family, and I already had my life, as it were. So I'm not doing that again. That's the feeling I got.
But she was full-blown Nazi master race it's no longer whites versus other races, it's soups versus humans, and wanting to have her little nuclear family with Homelander and Homelander's kid, kind of, I could buy into the idea that she was serious about like soups as the superior race and therefore trying to kind of put her hooks into him kind of thing. But
yeah, and the fact that Homelander could create, Homelander can father a soup without any compound V involved. So
right.
That was a huge part of it too.
He's the key, and she sees him as the key.
Right. He is sort of the key to the master race.
Which is just so fucking twisted. So twisted. But amazing storytelling.
Well, it is twisted, man. And, of course, worthy of discussion as well. Amazing storytelling. But I'm feeling like you guys are a little bit off. She specifically says it's a war against races. This is a racial thing that is not soups versus humans. It's whites versus X.
Yeah, but she said culture as well. Like, I think she certainly feels that way. I agree with you. Like, she has the old school racial issues, but I feel like she's even, like, tacking another layer on top of it all, too,
All right, well, maybe she is, but I really feel like that was more in the forefront because Starlight said as much. I literally just rewatched the scene when she goes in with the laptop and then Stormfront walks in. And they start doing this back and forth, and she's like, white people? And then later, Stormfront with Homelander in episode 2 is saying, she explains the whole thing with Vought and the Nazis, and is saying that, this is a war of races. These other racial groups have, more...
Yeah, the other racial groups are grinding us down.
Exactly. That's the line, right? And she's like, you're the one that's going to lead us. You know what I mean? And then also hinted at, sorry to do this, but when Stan Edgar meets with, I can't remember the guy's name. I know the actor's name, Goran Visnjic, the guy from the church.
Spanish Hugh Jackman?
There you go. That works. He's actually like Croatian, but whatever.
Yeah, I know, but Spanish sounds funnier, so.
I know. And Tomer's actually Middle Eastern. He's not French, so there you go.
There you go.
So it's hinted at again there, and Stan says, she's got a problem with A-Train. It's because he's black.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like a straight up blacks versus whites versus browns, Hispanic, whatever you want to say, however you want to cut that up with a knife. You know what I mean? And I just... crazy and very much echoing a lot of what's going on now. Like, I mean, they are so on point with, like, talk about science fiction mirroring society. My God, man.
Yeah, well, I think that part is definitely on purpose. I would have just added when we were earlier stating that it was, beyond just a racial thing and it was soups versus the rest of humanity. I was going to tack on white soups versus the rest of humanity.
Got it.
Because I think that's where you make the distinction.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think at a base level, she's clearly racist in the Naziist sense of the word, and then becomes a soup, the first soup. And then, over 100 years of being the first soup who started off as a very Nazi, is now a Nazi in terms of racial purity towards soups and, like you said, Benny, white soups. So it's both, I think. Yeah. I think we're saying the same thing. I just feel like it's both. They're two layers. One was foundational to her as a Nazi, and the second is a layer that kind of slathered on as she experienced being a soup, the power of it.
Yes. I think her plan is to give all the white people superpowers and get rid of everybody else. Yeah.
Well, and there is a point where Homelander says, what about all the other soups? And she's like, Vought had a plan for that, silly, which I thought was like a call out to the Holocaust. Just being like, don't worry. We can do that kind of crap again. And it was just like cold and twisted and fucked up. But I think that was clearly what it was hinting at. Her talking about how, Himmler's a great dancer and Goebbels is great and this and that. It's just like clearly she's full-blown Nazi, like, holy Jesus.
Oh, my God.
No doubt, dude. And bringing the Nazi party into this whole thing was just brilliant, man. Brilliant. The way they wove it all together was just seamless. It was so good. I mean, stepping away from your personal, visceral reaction to Nazis, as we all have that same reaction, it was brilliant the way they did that and how they utilized it.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Perfect metaphor.
Stormfront is the first soup in the comic, but he's a man, and he's just like a shitty Nazi soup that gets killed. You know, like there isn't really that Nazi thread.
I'm glad it was a woman.
Yeah, me too, for sure. But I'm also glad that it wasn't just a throwaway, haha, how funny is this random Nazi soup? It like being a thread that goes deeper with Vought and kind of the history of the company and Compound V. I think it fleshes out the idea of the company. There were so many companies that did well in real life during, World War II that were allied with the Nazis and came out of it super strong,
No doubt.
And it's just interesting to kind of have that true thread kind of woven into this fictional company, because it makes sense that a Nazi experimentation style human testing fucked upness would have been the place where that kind of began for Compound V. Like it makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it does.
Speaking of experimental fucked upness, the Sage Grove stuff was interesting. That's episode 6. That was kind of a side quest of an episode. Would you guys agree, or do you feel like it's kind of getting into the meat of it? Because being really focused on the Sage Grove facility seemed kind of like a side quest in a way.
Yeah, but it had to, the way that they wrote this season, it had to be told.
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying it was bad by any means, but my first reaction to it was kind of like a side questy thing, and I was concerned that it was just going to be more meandering, but it wasn't. Like you said, it was important to the story.
Anything that was side questy about it was good, you know?
It came good,
like, yeah. Well, it mattered to the story, which is great, which kind of makes it not side questy. But it was also sort of like just, organized a little differently, There was a clear mission. The whole thing revolved around it, more or less. It had that quality to it. So side questy in that respect, I guess, which was enjoyable to me. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yes.
You picking up what I'm putting down there?
I am picking up what you're putting down. I think I was more nervous that it was side questy and they still weren't getting to the point, but thankfully I was wrong in that assumption. So I feel like, it was just interesting that was my first reaction, even though it proved to be completely wrong.
I agree. It was necessary, and I loved the entire Sage Grove sequence. I thought it was fantastic. I loved seeing that they were keeping all of these sort of reject supers. I loved that Shawn Ashmore was in it, number one. So Shawn Ashmore is most well known for playing Iceman,
Snipe,
yes,
in the original X-Men series. So it was cool to see him play a fire character, dude. But
successful Nugget Snipe, Kev.
Sorry,
that's okay. I wanted to pat you on the back.
Thank you. That was my first Nugget snipe. I feel good about that. And it was great to see that Lamplighter got transferred. He never left the organization. It's like, we're just going to transfer you over to Storage B. And you can burn people when we decide we don't need them anymore, which is so twisted, But I loved seeing, how they had all the sort of undesirable soups, the defective ones, the island of misfit toys, as it were, misfit soups. The only thing that bummed me out was that they took all the hard drives and then they were just like, oh, we got to go. It's like, what? Take the hard drives. So everything about that scene was great. And I loved how, Cindy comes out and just, that's it. It's over. Just crushes that dude, the doors, everybody gets out, good times. I was really hoping, sorry, the last thing. I was really hoping my nerd gland started throbbing and I was like, dude, they need to recruit. Like, I was hoping that they were going to grab some of those, like, kind of rejects and be like, hey, we're rejects too. Come help us fight Vought. And then they were going to, like, kind of dial in some super team. I'm kind of glad it didn't go that direction because that's so kind of tropey comic. And I love that you're laughing, but I kind of, that was my sort of nerd fantasy there.
Yeah. What if they had ended up with the guy with the battle penis?
That was so heavy duty.
That was awesome.
Really? I fucking hated that.
I hated it and I loved it. I was like, really? And then I was like, oh, come on. It's the boys. They can get away with it.
Yeah, it almost went over the line. There was something about Milk getting attacked with it, which was, the way they framed that situation was funny.
Oh, dude, Frenchie's reaction to it made it funny. Like, we was like, have an open mind. It's super funny.
Yeah, that whole thing made it work. But other than that, it was kind of stupid.
The fact that the boys are going to give him shit about it for the rest of eternity makes it worth it. But because we've all been there, we've all like had some weird shit happen with a group of friends where someone's now known as,
yes,
has a new nickname because of being attacked by the battle penis equivalent of whatever happened in their lives.
Oh, you mean like getting a massage from a man?
Sure.
Guys, hang on a second. Folks, we're going to be getting right back to the nerdery in a second, but I just had to take a quick break because I want to thank everybody so much for tuning into the show. We put a lot of work into it, and we really love doing it. And if you like the show, there's a couple of great ways you can support the show. First, you can rate us and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also tell someone to check out the show. Word of mouth is incredibly powerful, incredibly important, and we really appreciate it. Thanks so much for tuning into the show, and now back to the mayhem.
So battle penises aside, the Sage Grove stuff is where Lamplighter comes back. I'm kind of curious if that did anything for you other than the actor being someone that you appreciated, Kev. Mainly because it's quite different in the comics, which we can talk about in a minute.
I loved it. Beyond Shawn Ashmore, I did love it because, again, it's show lore, it's world building. They talked about Lamplighter in the first season, and it was great to be able to not only see him, but, really kind of get into it with him and have him with us for a couple of episodes. So, yeah, loved it.
Yeah, I thought, in a show where there are clearly psychopath, sociopath superheroes, it was interesting to see that, one of the ones that was framed at being one of the worst was actually, sort of living a tormented life because of, he was filled with regret over what had happened. So I thought that was an interesting way to play it for sure.
Yeah.
Great twist.
And that kind of is one of the key reasons that it's different, because that isn't the case in the comics. I believe from memory, he kills those kids intentionally and doesn't give a shit. Mallory ends up killing him, and that's that, And he doesn't really, it's not much of anything. So it's an interesting change, and like you guys said, it fleshes out the lore of the show and kind of adds in a bit more nuance and complexity to, the idea of Soups being not all evil or all good.
The word nuance wanted to come out of my mouth so bad, but you beat me to it.
There you go.
Damn it.
I think there's an interesting moment in 6 with Starlight killing a guy. That was a really interesting moment for her.
Wait, what?
Where the dude in the car they're trying to commandeer pulls a gun and she ends up clipping him, and then kind of feels bad, but then has a conversation with Butcher.
No, my impression was that she just knocked him out with her powers, and then...
No, I got the he's fucking dead thing, for sure.
No, I mean, she knocked him out with her powers, and the dude fell down and cracked his fucking skull.
Yeah, there's blood
died
all over the road, yeah.
So it was like...
I thought that's what I saw, but I wasn't sure. Yeah, okay.
It was indirect. She didn't, she didn't fry him with her powers. She meant to just knock him out. But yeah, it was interesting. There's some interesting development between Starlight and Butcher via all of that. Otherwise, it might have been a total nothing burger because it doesn't ever seem to come back, nor does it seem to really haunt her. It's kind of like this realism thing, She's like, oh, what does she say? She says something along the lines of like, she's like, what she did think was like, why did you fucking pull your gun, you idiot? That was what she thought of it. So, and it kind of, I don't know, it draws a thread between her and Billy.
Mm. And the fact that she didn't feel guilty about it is what I liked about it, because she entered the show as a quote unquote innocent, or in the D&D kind of scale, she was lawful good, she was all the way at one end of the spectrum, and she's kind of slowly been working her way through to the other end,
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, she's nudged her way to the point where she drops a dude in the street by kind of accident, and then she's like, fuck it, whatever, it's just the way it is. That's very different than Starlight from season 1, I think.
Fair enough, but I think that Starlight and Huey are kind of the golden moral compass of everybody in this show, and they need to keep being that way, even if they get a little bit corrupted by the dark side of the Force. Sorry, I just died.
Yes, Star Wars death.
You beat me to it.
I really did. Sorry.
That transitions into a quote that needs to be said, where Starlight and Butcher are in the hospital room, kind of talking about his Huey's strawberry shampoo, and then Starlight drops, and his Axe body spray. That's how Vin Diesel must smell. I cracked up at that one. Friend of the show, Vin Diesel, is getting hated on by a fictional character. It was quite funny.
That was awesome.
The only other thing on episode 6 is the end of episode 6 is one of the biggest moments in the season, with Stormfront being confronted by Homelander and her coming out as a full-blown Nazi, which we kind of touched on already. But there was an interesting commentary in the extras where the showrunner Eric Kripke talks about Aya Cash and how she's a badass actor and she kicked ass in the scene, but made an interesting point where Aya Cash is a Jewish actor and how wild it must have been for her to, go full-blown Nazi in character, and also how much she just like home run the hell out of that scene. So I'm not sure if you guys saw that, but
yeah, I did. And it's funny because he was like, I kind of feel bad about that. Nah, fuck it.
Yeah, exactly.
It
was amazing. So, she did a great job.
Interesting.
I didn't see that. She did do a good job.
No, she really did. There's I don't know if it was in that same commentary scene, but there was another scene where, they were talking about iCash and how she just brought like a level of humanity to that character, despite the fact that she's a monster. Like you sort of. Not that you understand where she's coming from, but there's a humanity to what it is that she's doing. Like we forget that Nazis were they're monsters, but they are just people.
Right?
They're people with bad ideas. So they kind of commented on how she brought that 3-dimensional quality to the character, where she wasn't just a mustache twirling evil person or whatever. Like she believed in what she was doing, and she brought that aspect to it. So she was really good.
Yeah, if that had been played by a lesser capable actor, it could have easily fallen quite flat and been very, very silly. So yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, one of our listeners commented after part 1 that she's very much the same as she was in a different show that she did, the actress. So
yeah, this is the first time I've ever seen her or anything. So
yeah, same here, and I think I'm remembering this right, but somebody was saying that, and it could be that the characters are similar, and it could be completely coincidental. Either way, I think she did a fantastic job.
Yeah, so that wraps episode 6. Episode 7 is a really interesting opening scene with the younger dude kissing his mom, going to work, and becoming radicalized via social media, which was very on the nose, but really interesting.
The basement dwelling neckbeard fucking 4chan guy.
There you go, Benny. You nailed it, bruh.
But they really painted it in a sympathetic light where he seems like a good dude who's just being poisoned by just poison, and it's such a shitty and real situation for a lot of people these days.
Well, yeah, poisoned by misinformation and fear-mongering,
Yeah.
There's a really cool New York Times podcast, just a quick cul-de-sac called Rabbit Hole, and it was like a 4 or 5-parter on a person who is radicalized via YouTube, and it's like a really interesting dive into that. I'd highly recommend checking it out. But it was very much this kid in this opening scene.
Right on.
It definitely happens.
Yeah,
no doubt.
It's fucked up. It's just so fucked. We definitely don't need to go down this avenue. It's not a cul-de-sac. It's a fucking avenue of just sadness. But it was interestingly placed at the beginning of this episode.
Very much so.
It fleshes out Stormfront's social media horde that she's clearly stoking.
Cultivated, yeah.
But this episode's focused on Lamplighter as the witness, and Vogelbaum gets brought in and finishes up with the head explosion stuff. So it's a pretty big episode.
Yeah. The head explosion in the courtroom thing blew me away as much as Lamplighter lighting himself on fire. I just did not see those two things coming. I was like, and that's one of the things I love about this show. It's like you really don't know where they're going to go. I mean, even doing season 2, part 1, we were like, where's it going? It's like, I have no clue, and I definitely didn't think that was going to happen. But I was psyched to see, like, when the head started exploding, I was like, okay, so it's the same person. And I was convinced that it was Stan Edgar.
Yeah.
Popping the heads. And wow, talk about a reveal at the end for that. Not to jump to the end, but it was interesting seeing like Shockwave and all of these different people getting their heads popped. I was nervous that Grace Mallory would be one of them, and I'm glad that she wasn't, because her, like Shantel VanSanten, I was so glad to see that she got way more service in this season, and so we got to see a lot of her, and she's just awesome, man.
Yeah,
great actress, great character.
Yeah, I mean, this whole episode they have seemingly set their ducks in a row to take out Vought, and everything sort of blows up in their face, literally.
Repeatedly.
repeatedly. There's a lot of shit happens. Starlight is in captivity. She managed to get out because of Huey. The whole we find out that Noir is allergic to almonds. That was interesting.
Which was so funny.
That was great.
Maeve swooping in. That was really cool. I did not see that coming, and that was one of those really. That whole little exchange was very satisfying. It was another one of those little satisfying moments in this
I agree,
season.
Benny.
So,
remind me of what scene that was.
Right after Lamplighter burns himself, and then Huey and the mom and Starlight find each other, and they all end up back in that same room. And then there's Noir about to grease him again, and Maeve just jumps into the middle. Man, it's awesome.
Smashes right. Smashes the almond joy in his mouth. That was funny. That was really fucking funny.
It's good stuff. So
yeah, good times. Was this the same episode that they go to try to rescue the kid, or am I thinking of the last episode?
That's the last episode.
Homelander takes the kid from Becca in this episode, and the kind of him and Stormfront pretending to like have a family is in this one. Like the
that made me want to throw up, man.
Yeah. Like it really takes shape in the last episode with like going to Vought World and eating lunch, and the kid kind of has a panic attack and stuff. But like it's kind of the beginnings of her hinting to Homelander to take the kid, and him taking the kid is in this one, which was really fucked up.
Well, and he also takes the kid just up in the sky and shows him that everything's fake in the place that they live. So he's already like manipulating the kid, getting him to hate his mom, all that good stuff.
I have a question in this one for you guys. What did you guys think of the Billy Butcher confronting his dad on the balcony thing?
I liked it. Fine. It was fine. It just like everything else in this show, but just kind of unnecessary. I did not see. Well, actually, no. I mean,
it became necessary, but it wasn't at the time necessary.
Yeah.
Well, it became necessary. Yeah. I mean, it definitely came into play later because of his relationship with the kid, and all of that stuff. So, yeah, valid. But they could have just done it without having a scene with the dad, and I think it would have been fine, too. I mean, I'm super nitpicking.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not griping necessarily, but like, you make a good point. They did flashback stuff with Frenchie. They could have done a flashback with Butcher just as easily. But again, I don't have necessarily a problem with it. It was just different. Do you feel similarly, Benny?
Yeah, I would essentially mirror what Kev said. I mean, the scene was well done. It just, when it was going on, I was like, why is this happening? We're fleshing out Billy Butcher's character here. This is, a little, they didn't need to hit us over the head with it like this, like that's what I was thinking at the time.
Yeah.
So,
although it was Denethor from Return of the King, which I was pretty stoked about.
Yeah.
God damn it. I knew I recognized that guy. Me not knowing that's a death. I'm making it a death.
You're lamplightering because you're so pissed. You're so disappointed in yourself.
You're committing suicide.
No, I think we should call that the Lamplighter death.
Because someone took your statue down.
Right, there you go.
What else happens in that?
Final episode, hey? That's it. I think the head explosion scene's the end of it, unless you guys want to touch on anything else there.
No. I want to get through the next episode so we can just talk about, other things that we liked and throw in the various notes that we have and all that good stuff.
Perfect. So the episode 8, White House is going to go ahead with V.
Yes.
Huey and Starlight go to see Maeve, who tells him to fuck off. Edgar and the Spanish Hugh Jackman sit down and have a chat about A-Train. Becca ends up at the hideout and the Planet Vought lunch. That's kind of like the first chunk of the episode.
Right, and then they go in to rescue the kid.
Yeah, so the Planet Vought lunch I thought was interesting. I don't know if we really need to dig any further into the weird soup nuclear family thing, but that was just quite twisted. The whole, like, her manipulating Homelander into taking his kid and then pretending they're happy families was just so crazy.
And then, well, I mean, it's so PR, you know what I mean? And it's so, like... And it's a little bit like, Clark Kent experiencing his powers in class for the first time. You know what I mean? In school. Like, there's a little bit of that. And then, the kid just being freaked out by, like, everybody mobbing his dad and his dad's girlfriend. So, thank you for that laugh, Charlie.
Wicked stepmom.
It was a little stepmom there. It was a little... It was good. I'm glad they included it. And I really like the kid. The kid did a really great job. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, he was excellent.
I suppose it really sets up the end, having the whole, like, come with your dad and me, and we'll go and be happy soups, and then, like, the whole, like, final climax, everyone kind of dies bullshit. Like, it sets it up quite nicely.
Yeah.
And so not surprised that, the kid gets away. He's like, I hate you. You're lying to me. And then he's, like, away with his dad for 10 minutes. He's like, can I call my mom?
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, yes.
Yeah.
I so didn't want the kid to, like, turn out to, like, be evil or be like, I'm going to stay with you. I want to burn my mom's face off with my laser eyes. Can you show me how to do that, Dad?
Could have gone that way so easily.
Yeah.
A-Train giving the files to Stormfront was I really liked that, especially his motivation. Like, he wasn't changing sides. He just was trying to manipulate his way back onto the 7. I really dug that.
Yeah, I dug it too. I kind of found him a more likable. I'm not a commentary again on the actor who did a fantastic job at making me hate him for most of season 1 and season 2. And I liked how he made me like him in that little bit there. I thought that was great. So,
it's great how he just crops up in the car.
Yeah. He's like, what's up, gang?
Starlight and Huey are like, whoa, holy fuck.
I love how, like, it implies that he would have just, like, sonic boomed his way in and then opened the door and gotten himself in. No big deal. Like, it was just super funny.
Yeah, it was cool. And then you want to talk, I mean, I guess the sort of one of the final scenes is like the assault on the cabin, sort of, or the exfiltration of Ryan.
Sure. I want to whoa you briefly, though, because I think the Butcher and Mr. Edgar scene was quite interesting. The fact that Butcher was going to sell him out, and like that was quite a cool.
Yes,
you're right. Sorry. I'm skipping a bit. Yeah.
Quite a cool the two leads are going toe to toe kind of thing.
Did you guys think that Butcher was going to go through with it?
I did, actually.
I thought that they were setting it up where you wouldn't know which way he went, and I suppose it wouldn't have surprised me if he had gone through with it. But I definitely felt like they were setting it up so that the audience wouldn't know and have to kind of choose one of the two. So, yeah.
I dig that.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of on Kev's motorcycle where I thought he was going to go through with it and go to the dark side, but then again, yeah, I don't know. What did you think?
I didn't fully believe it, but I did. I thought he was capable of it for sure.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, please, no, come on, man. Don't do that,
Yeah.
So, again, I was pleasantly surprised that he did not.
And the fact that he said it to Becca and was like, I was going to fuck you over, and she was like, but you didn't, so please come. I really liked that exchange. It was way more realistic than the way that kind of thing's handled in most pieces of fiction.
Yes.
That's the beauty of that whole sequence, especially where she is concerned, but also Karl Urban is like just the realism of the dialogue and the way that the actors dialed it in was just superb. Cannot stress that enough. It was so damn good. And that was really where Shantel really just brought the thunder, man, and also, where we're reminded of why Karl Urban is the greatest actor on the face of the planet.
Dude, he's so good.
He's just so great. And the kid too, and really the entirety of the cast, because we see a lot of the players come together right there, but certainly the Becca, the kid and Butcher for sure. And we see this just really interesting dynamic that was sort of hinted at in the beginning of the season is kind of fleshed out more. The dynamic of her being his wife and then the kid being her son, but not with him. And he's not nuts about soups. And then, he's going to do anything that she asks because he just loves her so much, and you can just see that. And she makes him promise and he does. And I just absolutely loved that. I almost cried a couple of times in one of that episode and possibly the one before. There were just some great moments,
No doubt.
And that was one of them.
I don't want to take anything away from any of the other actors that were in this because everybody, like you said, everybody was fantastic. But I mean, I think Karl Urban and Shantel VanSanten are just like electric together. Like they really play well off of each other. They're amazing. Like I'd love to see them do like a drama movie, together. Like I think it would be amazing. They just have like a really great chemistry, and they're both excellent. And they seem to bring something out of each other that's really, really powerful on screen. So
no doubt. And they I was bummed when she died. We don't need to get into the last scene quite yet, but I was kind of like, no, don't kill her off. But like, it's the only thing that could have happened. Like you guys said earlier in the other episode, if she was around or stuck somewhere, Butcher would have just been like, I'm not part of the boys anymore. See ya. And the show would have been over. So I get that they had to kill her off, but I was still like, no, so.
I was super bummed when she died too, because I just thought she was great.
But it's for that same reason that you mentioned, Benny. Like the chemistry was just amazing. So
yeah,
and it was a great character and well written, and it's like you just want to see more.
Oh, I meant to chuck this in earlier, but I feel like her dying in this.
Not talking, or can you not hear me?
Sorry, buddy.
That was a very blatant violation.
Yeah, this is a Skype delay.
You're just like,
you got a flag on the field here.
I'm just going, dude. Whatever.
Interruption death.
It's all right. Yeah, that's an interruption death. I don't even care anymore. Just keep going.
Sorry, bro. I meant to mention this earlier, but I think her dying in this is very much how I felt about Stillwell dying in season 1, where like you just hate to see her go because she's so fantastic, but like it kind of makes sense in a way.
Yes. And that's what great shows and great writing are all about. Kill characters off, man, and just keep going, Yeah. If you're eliciting a response and you're eliciting emotion in people when that's happening, you're doing it right. Like keeping bringing them back from the dead and all that bullshit just to keep ratings and sell more fucking Pepsis or whatever, or more bounty paper towels is just not the way that you want to do it, man.
The quicker picker upper.
It's like, I think we can sell a few more 6-piece McNuggets here. Let's bring her back from the dead.
Yeah.
Anybody up for more Mr. Clean Magic Erasers? It's like, come on, man.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. No, I mean, in general, the way they tied everything up, I think was really, really good and really satisfying. And, it was very necessary for her to die. It's the only way for Billy Butcher to really move forward as a character. And the fact that he's responsible for her son really changes things, I think, for him as far as his attitude towards Soups goes. Because basically he's like a full-on racist, essentially, against Soups.
Definitely.
The only good soup is a dead soup kind of idea. And I think this really challenges him to rethink things.
No doubt. And not be like his dad, except for the fact, the advice that he gives the kid right before he gets in the car, which is great. Remember what I said. Don't be a cunt. I was like, holy shit, are you kidding me?
That was great.
That was so funny.
Yeah, excellent.
And that's all completely non-existent in the books in terms of the dad thing and the redemption stuff. So another example of them really fleshing things out here.
Yeah.
Just before we get into the major climax battle, the Homelander with the scared kid in the cabin scene I thought was really interesting. Like, it was super, like, Homelander kind of softened a bit talking to him and told about how he was scared and stuff, and it was just un-Homelander-like, which, I don't know, it was just interesting. I enjoyed that scene.
I'm glad you brought that up, Chad, because that was something that I noticed. And the thing I noticed is it's subtle, but again, this is a testament to Antony Starr as an actor.
Antony.
The guy is just a fucking monster, man, monster actor. And you can see the little bits in the various interactions with the kid where he's like challenged to, for whatever reason, be a nice person and kind of do it right. And you can see that he's digging that.
Yeah.
He's like getting a taste of what it's like to like be a real human being. You know what I mean? And have this little person that you have to take care of, and I think especially anybody out there with kids can identify with this, a little bit from a different perspective maybe, but, he gets that taste of it and you can see that he's kind of into it, and he starts taking that different tack in the cabin. And I just thought that was fantastic. Great. Like Ben said, another great little nuanced little moment in there that happened a couple of times throughout the second half of the season. And it was fantastic. I loved it.
It was uncharacteristic. In fact, I was afraid for the kid.
Fair enough.
I thought there was like some quote unquote tough love coming.
Yeah, like the push off the roof thing.
Right, and I thought it was going to get really fucking ugly. So it was interesting to see. It was interesting to see it go down that way, for him to have like a human moment like that. And it was good. I think it was good for the character as well.
Yeah. And it was almost like a flash of what could have been, because then like a moment later that Sonic thing happens and the kid's abducted and he comes back and just like lays waste, so it kind of is like that last flash of what could have been, and it's just gone forever kind of thing.
Yeah it was almost his last chance to be good.
I don't even know if I would say last opportunity. It's kind of like his only opportunity.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And I think the way Kev framed it, with it being another one of those moments like you mentioned, is a good way to say it, because there were quite a few just moments scattered throughout this that were just excellent.
Yeah,
absolutely excellent, regardless of how I feel about the messiness of other things. Like, there were definitely some just amazing moments.
Yeah, we were all pretty, I think, worried about how they were going to manage to tie everything up in this season in the first half. And, I got to say, perhaps it wasn't perfect, but god damn it, they did a really good job of landing the plane this time around, considering how many balls they had in the air, I think they did a great job.
Yeah, especially exactly that, considering how many balls they threw in the air. Like, I was super nervous, and I'm very thankful that it, I don't know. I want to say I shouldn't have doubted them, but because so many other things have just fallen apart in other shows and whatnot, I didn't have high hopes, but I'm really glad that this team pulled it together, because they clearly know what they're doing. Even on a bad day, they're damn good, which is kind of my view of this season. It's like not perfect, like you said, but even on a bad day, it's pretty damn close to good enough.
Absolutely. I think I have faith in this crew now to continue putting out some good stuff. They cut their teeth on the first season. It was excellent, and I think they can continue doing some good stuff.
I couldn't agree more. I think that these guys have just done a fantastic job. I watched a couple of the interviews with Eric Kripke, and that dude is just on point. He knows what he's doing, man, and he knows how to write well and structure the story well and pull in current events, into that and kind of make it seamless. Just really, really well done. So, yeah, they absolutely landed the plane, stuck the landing. I didn't even feel the plane touch down. It was so damn smooth. You know what I mean? And I heard your worry at the beginning when we did part one, and I did not think that they were going to screw it up. And I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they didn't prove me wrong. I think they did a fantastic job. To that end, kind of transitioning into great themes, moments, and lines before we get into the NDR and wrap it up. I think that, one of the things I just loved, I mentioned before, I loved that Grace Mallory had a larger part in this season. And I loved that we finally really get more of the backstory about the boys. I really thought that Frenchie was just kind of a drug dealer, man, and all of that. And like, you really see that, like, the whole thing with Lamplighter and all these various other things, that they were very much a team. It was legit, and they were working with Grace and keeping tabs on the soups and Vought and all of that stuff. And I was just super psyched to get more lore, Let's be real here. We're all about lore here on the show. Everybody loves good lore, and we love great world building. So getting more lore was fantastic about the team. And then also that, it was going to continue on in a different way. She kind of throws that bone out there to Billy at the end, and he doesn't respond, So I was loving seeing stuff like that.
Definitely.
Yeah, and her choice to not put a bullet in Lamplighter's head was really powerful for her character, for sure.
Excellent. Shawn Ashmore and Laila Robins just dialing it in there together. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was a great scene.
Oh my God. So damn good, man. Let's move on to like notes and other scenes, moments that we loved, funny and otherwise.
Well, I'll continue with my satisfying moments theme that I've touched on already. Seeing Maeve and Starlight and Kimiko kicking the shit out of Stormfront was really awesome. In fact, I was kind of hoping that was like where she was going to meet her demise. Like they were just going to have like the Office Space copier moment with her and like just finish her off right in that field.
Fuck yeah.
And the fact that she escaped was kind of a bummer, but I mean, of course it makes, it needed to be that way for the story, but that was like a really, really satisfying moment. I half expected to like hear, damn, it feels good to be a gangster, fucking kick in the background.
Totally. She was so the copier, man. That is such a great analogy, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was good. And just, I think we had kind of speculated or, threw out our hopes for various characters and, where they were going to end up in this season. We did a lot of talking about Milk, and I was really psyched. I was psyched that they were acquitted and he was able to go back home, with the sort of honor. It's like you're assuming that his family knows what the hell was going on and that he had to be there and they're willing to take him back. And Kimiko and Frenchie, I thought that was really satisfying that they sort of, reconciled and their relationship seemed to find a stable ground and, and blossom, and that they're communicating and, that they managed to get through unscathed as well. I thought that was great. So, yeah.
I suppose if Butcher can't have a happy ending, chucking a bit of a happy ending out there for the other pairings it makes sense. Like, I wouldn't say it's fan service per se, but like, MM getting a little bit of love, like you said, it's just, you're just like, yes, MM, like you're pumped for him, even though it's not like mission critical to the story. It's still like not all doom and gloom and kind of nice.
Totally.
Yeah. And if shit had gone down badly for all of them, it would have just detracted from.
Yeah, exactly.
What's on Butcher's plate. So it was handled really well. It wasn't cheesy, it wasn't like, yeah. It was good. So.
Or like super saccharine.
Benny, what else did you have that was noteworthy?
No, it's I'm going to leave it there. I think that was quite a bit, right?
Yeah, it was great.
Do you have anything, Kev?
Yeah, Benny covered the fight thing, which I just thought was bonkers, fantastic, awesome. I ended up.
You were perilously close to singing a 311 song there, man.
Was I?
Flip the moon, fantastic.
Maybe I was, man. Most of my notes were just memorable lines. I don't know why I did that, but that's what I did for notes on this one. And man, are there some great ones. I want to lead it off by saying that I mentioned this earlier in the episode. Chace Crawford just crushes playing the total Aqua loser hero. I mean, he's so good at it, man. And I love the job that he does. And I love that he never...
Especially with the Scientology craziness, too.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I love that... I mean, they all kind of do this, but he never takes that stupid costume off. Thin gloves and all,
Yes.
It's just so great, man. So the first line I had, I'm just going to kind of rattle these off. The mom says to Starlight, after they break out of 42D or whatever, she mentions Huey, and the mom goes, "Really? The anxious boy with the moist handshake?" I was laughing so hard, man. That was really, really funny.
That was good.
The Planet Vought waiter, like right when they walk in the door and you see the waiter, he's like, "Welcome to Planet Vought. Would you like to try our super special Maeve Rainbow fish chips?" Whatever. That was so funny, man.
And it's like, holy fuck.
I don't know if you guys caught that or not. The waiter just like, he was just playing like the I hate my job waiter. It was great.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
The Deep had a couple. When Maeve comes and starts talking to him, he's like, "You think I'm a piece of shit?" She's like, "Oh my God, totally." No, he goes, "You think I'm a piece of shit?" She goes, "Fuck yeah." I just thought that was great. Like, no hesitation whatsoever. Perfect timing. Great delivery.
I love the other. I hope I'm not sniping you here, but I love the one where he's
probably
like unpacking his bag at the like get together, and the lady's like, "I thought there was going to be food here." He's like, "It's food for the soul." And he's like unpacking the Scientology Bibles or whatever. Oh, that was fucking hilarious.
Good stuff. No, that was not a snipe. I was going to say his other great line was when he's when he starts bitching later. He's like, "I've done everything you've asked. I married this weirdo who gives really bad blowjobs."
That whole scene, everything he says is fucking solid gold, man. I didn't even laugh when you told me about the space spores.
Exactly. Just more like fleshing out the horribleness of all the people in this sort of universe, That was what was great about it. I already kind of mentioned the dynamic with Billy and the kid. I think we all get how cool and interesting and great that is. I loved the little scene with him and the kid sitting by the lake and the talisman. I can't believe I just said that.
St. Christopher thing. I mean, it is pretty much a talisman.
That's so wizards and elves, man. That's so not our thing. The talisman that he gave the child.
Season 2, episode 4, the talisman.
No, I believe it was The Magic Talisman of St. Christopher, Season 2, Episode 7.
It's Episode 8, actually.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway, it was like just a great moment. You know, again, that's why we love Karl Urban. And that kid. Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
I'm going to drop a nugget on that.
Drop a nug.
That entire scene was proposed to Kripke by Urban. It was not written. Urban said, I really think that I need closure with the kid. And he pushed to have that scene at all. And that was all Urban.
And that's why we love Urban. Did you notice? Maybe I'll keep that as a nugget, actually. I'll save that one.
Ooh, a suspenseful nugget.
That's all I got. I think that's it. The little song on the social media after we find out that everybody finds out that Stormfront is just a total Nazi piece of shit. And somebody makes that little meme and it's like Nazi Stormfront, Hitler Star. I can't remember how the tune goes, man. I kept singing
It's
it.
like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was Twinkle Twinkle Little Star?
Yeah.
Nazi Stormfront, Hitler Star. It was so perfect.
Hope you get hit by a car or something like that.
That was it, yeah. Good stuff. Okay, that's it.
All right, I've got two things. One is super obvious. We didn't talk about the final climactic battle. But before that, just to tap on the Scientology thing a little bit more. I mentioned in the previous episode I really dug the Scientology thread, even though it was kind of random and it completely not existed in the comics. But I really liked the thread tying in and being useful in a funny way with A-Train and Deep being somewhat relevant with A-Train feeding the info that uncovers the Stormfront plot and kind of the Spanish Hugh Jackman kind of touching base with the senator at the end. So I really dug this Scientology thread.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I kind of didn't really get where they were going in the beginning, but I mean, it lined up perfectly. It was great.
Especially with the like punchline of telling Deep that he's being toxic and basically kicking him out of the cult. It was just like beautiful.
One more thing. I fucking hate Fresca.
And that was like, was it Mr. Edgar when he sits down? He's like, would you like a Fresca? He's like, file stuff. It's just perfect.
I know. I still think that there was something in the Fresca, though.
Yeah,
like
maybe. Maybe.
You know, it was kind of like they kind of hinted at it enough, but not enough, you know? So I was kind of like, don't need to spend any time there. Anyway, go ahead.
My main moment that we haven't touched on yet is the final kind of climax. The battle we covered with the girls get it done, and then it just
final countdown.
It just ends up with the in the woods kind of thing.
We're here together out in the woods.
I don't know the lyrics enough to join you on this, but it's a great song to get stuck in your head.
I don't know them well enough either. I'm trying to make up new ones a la this episode. We're gonna have a battle.
We're heading to Venus, but still we stand strong with a huge battle penis.
For the fate of the world, the final countdown.
Oh, I love the use of battle penis there. Perfect.
Sorry, Ben's got it, but he's got better lyrics than I do.
It's all right.
Okay. Let's get back to this.
Yes, sorry. Final battle, Chad. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
So she nopes out of the girls get it done and finds Billy and his family running away, and that's kind of where she drops in and starts messing things up, right?
You're talking about Stormfront.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is where she
Yes.
dies.
Yeah, she just kind of like walks up covered in blood being like, we love you, come with us. Whatever.
Ugh, so nasty.
Yeah, it was twisted. I suppose, it was inevitable in a way in hindsight that the kid was being set up to stop her. And I kind of do agree with what you said earlier, Benny, where like it would have been nice for the Girls Get It Done crew to have beat her to death, but it kind of makes more sense for them to go with the Billy Butcher family kind of real ending. But that was some heavy shit, man. That was just a heavy ending.
Heavy.
They had to, I'm just glad they included, I guess perhaps it was fan service that, the Girls Get It Done thing. But I'm glad it was there. It would have been satisfying if it was the end, but like we've said before, they had a lot of balls in the air and they needed to they needed to tie everything together here. So, the way they went was the only way and the best way.
And in terms of like, in my opinion, the single best use of gore in the entire season was Becca sticking a knife in her fucking eye. Like, that was so good. Just so Becca wasn't just the damsel in distress that gets killed off. Like, she's just like, fuck you, Like, I loved that.
Yes.
And I love that we got that little taste. She says earlier before they like embark on the mission that, you know, they were both in the military together. Something about a range.
Yeah.
She says the range at Fort something, I think. So we get that, like, you know, she's definitely got some training, you know. It's good stuff.
And even Stormfront's reaction to losing an eye, you know, she's just like, I'm going to kill you now, and I want to see the light leave your eyes again, kind of thing. So twisted.
She said, I like to watch the light go out. So twisted, man.
I didn't expect the kid to kill her. I mean, it makes sense in hindsight, but I
didn't either.
I was like, oh, shit.
I wish the kid had run over to his mom, though. That was the only gripe I have. I was like, man, the kid was so upset. It's like, run over to your mom. Like, he's so attached to her, you know? It's like, if it wasn't just like a Butcher Becca moment, like that was great. And it was great that like she was, you have to promise and all of this stuff. And he's a great kid and all that stuff was necessary and great. I wouldn't change a thing. I would have just added that the kid came over. It would have just made that whole, Trinity dynamic there between the three of them just even better. You know, the kid runs over crying, mommy, I love, you know, just that would have been fantastic. You know, it would have just made that scene like even more crazy awesome. So that's like my only gripe. Oh, Kev.
Yeah,
that's fair.
That was, I mean, Cameron Gravetti really brought it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Throughout. But in that part, I mean, it was just, you know, it was heartbreaking. Seeing them just, you know, frozen in fear and of what he had done, you know, and just, you know, please, mommy, please forgive me, you know, like, man, that was just like, whew.
That's the moment when your life is, you know, ruined, you know, as a kid, like trauma that just doesn't go away.
Oh, it's like you're so upset you're trying to protect your mom and then you end up killing her.
Seriously messed up.
Yeah. My only gripe with that scene was that, though, how did Becca end up, like, with a, like, you know, a severed jugular, essentially?
I didn't get that either.
I didn't get that. Was it something that happened, like, when Stormfront got hit, you know? Like,
I kind of got the Cyclops without the mask thing. That was kind of what I thought it was. You know, like, Cyclops has his mask, he can direct his vision, so, like, Highlander, that's funny. Homelander can kind of use his lasers because he knows how to use them, where the kid doesn't. So, like, you pull Cyclops' visor off, and all of a sudden the shit blasts everywhere, and people get caught in the crossfire. So I kind of got that vibe, if that makes sense.
Or he could have, like, because of that, because I thought I figured it was the same thing too. Like, he wasn't focusing the energy; it was just like a wide dispersion beam, you know, just like an explosion.
Or moved his eyes, or whatever. Yeah.
Well, hell, if a piece of bark or something could have chipped off that tree and hit her in the neck. I mean, you have no idea, you know? Or
yeah. It
was a little ambiguous.
I was hoping for a Star Wars death here, but, Stormfront on the ground is essentially the exact same damage as, like, Darth Vader.
I've got the high ground, Anakin.
Yes. You took the words out of my mouth. But she's fucking burnt up. You know, she's missing limbs. She's burnt up. Becca's not burnt up at all. That was the only thing that, like, threw me off. I was like, well, did, like, Stormfront slit her throat as she was getting burnt up? Or, like, it just, I don't know. It just, anyways.
Yeah.
Small gripes.
It's a legit gripe.
I think the kids, just to put a bow on this, and that's a good gripe of Kev, that the kid, like, did the wide dispersal. He has no control over his power, so he aimed it at Stormfront. Clearly hit her, burned the shit out of her, and his mom got the collateral, and it just happened to hit her in the neck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, now that you mention it, there is implausibility to it, but I didn't care at the time. I was like, yeah, fine, whatever. But
the only other little thing I had to bring up was the use of the Beach Boys at the end.
Yeah. That. What did you think of that? All that ever reminds me of is Paxton in Big Love.
Ooh, that's right.
I don't know if you ever watched that one, the show, the Mormon polygamy show.
You know what? I never did, but I'm glad you mentioned it because
that's the theme song to it. So every time I hear it, I just get a flash of Bill Paxton's face.
Oh, no shit.
What did you think of that one?
I just, that's like the song that made me actually start to appreciate the Beach Boys. Like, I always hated the Beach Boys.
Oh, nice.
And that song and you know, that album in particular, Pet Sounds, is
it's so good.
Great album. And yeah, it was just, I'm always psyched when I hear it, and seeing it used in this, like, you know, kicked up a notch of the soundtrack for me by, you know, definitely a digit.
Yeah, that was a really interesting choice. I think it was, a good choice. I definitely have that weird connection to it. So, like, it's kind of like sometimes you have, like, those songs that remind you of your ex-girlfriend no matter what, even if it's a great song. And it definitely just is a theme song to a show. So it just reminded me of that. But I thought it was a great choice. we breezed by it briefly, but Homelander landing with the security team in the cabin and just like laying waste to them and coming out just dripping is kind of where he goes from having the chance to be good to now, clearly going back to his old ways. But him kind of dropping into the woods post the kid blasting his mom and Stormfront was well shot, coming in from out of focus, and then kind of that bit with him and then Maeve dropping in and showing the video. That was really interesting to me. The like Homelander's motivation and like choosing to walk away kind of stuff. Like that was really unexpected and an interesting way to tie that all up. Because how the fuck's Butcher going to take him on? You know what I mean?
Right, and leaving us open for more in the future, which we definitely want. So
again, Maeve swooping in to save the day, awesome, and then also seeing her get the upper hand on Homelander finally, it was really great.
And just like the Almond Joy, knowing exactly how to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think where we were just getting to Anakin in the woods, and we were about to go off on too many Star Wars things. So it's probably good that just happened.
It's probably good that we had the Anakin high ground. Like I was just hoping.
I have the high ground, Anakin.
I have the high ground, Anakin.
And the pull of the yakisoba.
Can't we just put this behind us and go get some yakisoba?
Anakin, I brought an extra set of chopsticks.
I just want to throw out one new mini segment, which won't take more than a second, but just like ramifications. With the reveal that the senator's the one popping heads, I thought was interesting because it kind of like sets her up to be potentially a Vought plant, like Mr. Edgar and she are kind of setting things up, or, if that's not the case, Senator knows Mallory and is giving her funding and thus kind of has an inside scoop to Butcher. So like the whole team's at risk now, and just some interesting stuff came out of that.
Yes. I mean, let the speculation begin is like the way you could leave it. But I mean,
yeah.
One thing, Chad, one way it could go is that, it was sort of like the backup plan of Stan Edgar. You know what I mean? Like if, to get somebody into the political system and, somehow reassert control without it looking like it was coming from the corporation. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, there's definitely some cool directions.
But having Huey at risk at the end, getting a job with her and stuff, there's all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah, I think it would be fair to say that they tied everything up beautifully, but they also set some shit up for what's to come. That's very intriguing. So
very intriguing.
That's it for me, dude. NDR?
I don't have any nuggets, so
okay, I got a couple.
I don't know about Ben. Yeah?
Chad's Nuggets. It's only Chad's Nuggets this time.
Benny, do you have any? It's just back to Chad's Nuggets.
Talk about Chad.
Talking about Chad. He can do it.
He can do it. All right, nugget number 1.
Chad.
He's a bad mother. Shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth. These are my nuggets.
I think it would be, he's a bad nugget. Shut your mouth. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway.
Sure.
And it's not
right, Mr. Nugs.
Or it's talking about sass, like sassy squirrel. Talk about sass. The estate where Homelander visits Vogelbaum and where Butcher and Mallory visit Vogelbaum is called Pinewood Estate in Ontario, and it is also the estate used by Adam Sandler in Billy Madison.
Ooh.
So that's Billy Madison's mansion. Random weird nugget. And in the tradition of the 2 nuggets and 2 random weird nuggets, Planet Vought lunch sequence, when they walk in the door, there's a song playing in the background, and it turns out the song is called Can't Stop the Rhythm by Atomania, which is Karl Urban's son's band, or he's a member of that band.
Get the hell out of here. We got 2 Urbans for the price of 1 in this? I love it.
Yeah, his son Indy is a member of the band. So you can barely hear the song, but I just thought it was a random and funny urban nugget.
Nice.
That's a nice nugget, man. I actually, Chad, I'm sorry to disappoint. I know that you were hoping for the day and you finally got your section back to yourself, but I did remember a nugget that I had.
Okay. You just want to swoop in here and fuck things up. I get it.
Who is the man with the facts in his noggin?
Can you dig it?
We're arguing and Jarhigo's like honing the song. I love it.
I like it.
I love it, man. Okay, here's my nugget.
Damn right.
It's not a creepy, weird nugget. It's nothing crazy. when Homelander is teaching Ryan how to use his laser eyes, do you notice the action figure that he's trying to melt?
Oh, no, but I am definitely getting a hazy memory of it.
It was the Deep.
No shit. That's amazing.
Yeah. It was just a perfect extension of the Aqualoser theme throughout the entire thing. It's
That's
like,
awesome.
of all the action figures he picked to melt, it was the Deep. I was like, this is perfect. So that's my nugget.
That's a perfect nugget. I love it. Great.
Deaths?
Deaths. I didn't write any of them down.
I did. I have 3 that I recorded. Star Wars death for myself. I could not remember. I should have known that Billy's dad was Denethor. I should have known that he was Denethor. Shame on me. Everybody Kevs. So I get the newly minted Lamplighter death for that. And then, Chad, you had a major interruption death on me.
Yeah, I fucked you up.
That I really could have turned into a double death because I could have wanted you to die. So that would have been a death wish for doing that. But we're going to just retract that, keep it as an interruption death. And then, I don't know, there was kind of like an orgiastic multiple Star Wars death kind of at the end. I don't know, maybe
The
not.
yakisoba stuff. Yeah, no, I'm down with that.
Yeah. Otherwise, I would have survived, and we can't have that.
Nope.
Exactly. It was kind of like all the younglings getting killed by Anakin at the in that
Messed up,
movie.
man.
I've got 2 sets of chopsticks, Anakin. Anakin, let's have a Lady in the Tramp moment with this yakisoba.
I mean, to be fair, Anakin has no arms. Where would you put the chopsticks?
In his mouth.
Oh, you'd feed him?
He'll use him with the Force, man. No, he'll
Oh,
use the
yeah.
Force to lift the chopsticks.
Force chopsticks? Everyone knows about force chopsticks. Come on.
Everybody knows about Force eating.
When he weirdly, creepily fed that pear to Padme.
I was just going to say, when he floats that pear into her face before riding a weird, hairy fucking two-legged
Oh,
thing
my
and flirting in the
God.
grass. Best scene ever.
And that horrible scene about the sand. Oh, my God.
Oh, Jesus H. Christ.
All right, so let's do the ratings and get this done.
Kev,
My rating,
your rating.
it's a 10. I absolutely loved it.
We do
It was
letters, you dickhead. You're dead.
great. Okay.
Get it backwards every fucking time. I love it.
Dickhead.
Put away your battle penis and rate it with a fucking letter.
Late. I gotta jot this down. Late death. Because I don't know what I'm doing. Do we call that the ineptitude death? All right.
Sure.
It's a letter rating. It gets an A. Solid A. That's it. Not an A plus, not a B plus, an A.
Cool. Well, that's in keeping with your opening statement of that seems on par with season 1. So fair enough.
Exactly. Bloody great.
One thing we didn't quite touch on, which could fit here, is I liked Stormfront a lot by the end. I wasn't really digging her in the beginning. I thought her character just made no sense.
Yeah, you were pissed.
It wasn't anything against the actor by any means. It's just before the full-blown Nazi stuff, it just seemed to just be pointless. But because it came around and really was quite remarkable and good, I'm kind of pissed in the other direction now, where I don't think having her die, like, I kind of really want to see a show that has a villain last more than one fucking season. I think it would have been really cool to see her and Homelander kind of Naziing out for 2 seasons and her twisting him around her thumb kind of thing. But it's just not going to happen. So it's a bit of a...
She's not dead, though.
That's fair, I suppose. But she kind of should be. I don't know. The whole Vader... I mean, unless she comes back in a Vader suit, which I'm on board for all the way.
Nice.
A Nazi Vader suit? That would be so fucked up.
Kind of a Nazi suit anyways.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a good point, Benny. Yeah, she might not be dead. That said, the only kind of gripe I have that remains from the previous conversation is that I do feel like the structure of the season wasn't as tight as season 1, and it kind of feels like a setup season versus a main story season, kind of like the middle of a trilogy kind of thing. I don't know if you guys feel the same way or whether it's just me being a weirdo because I kind of know the place that this might go in terms of the comic, even though they're drifting quite a bit from it.
I think it's that and a little bit that you want to be able to predict where it's going to go.
I don't necessarily. I don't want it to go the same place as the comic in the sense, not that it was bad or good or whatever, but just that, like I've said over and over, I like it when source material is elevated, and I think they're doing that or beginning to do that here. So like I'm cool and I'm on board, but I just kind of feel like this season was a little bit messier. it did come good in the end. So I would have given this a C in the first episode, down from an A with season 1, but I feel like it came around to a solid B. So like it's definitely not as good as the first season in my opinion, but it's still damn good. So I'm glad they kind of, pulled it together in the end. I'm definitely on board with what you guys were saying about them pulling it together, and I'm interested to see where they go next.
I would have to agree that it's not as tight of a season, but man, they did a really good job of pulling this one together. And to my surprise, I had, I think I refrained from making any predictions in the first half of our coverage on this. And I'm glad I didn't, because I never would have guessed where they were going to take it. I feel like I need to bust it down a little bit from season 1. But I'm going to go with, I think I went with an A in season 1. I'm going on that premise anyways. So going with that premise, I'm going to give it an A-.
Wow.
That's fair.
Can't take much away from it. They did a fantastic job, and it ended up being a great season. And really satisfying and a lot of fun to watch.
If I may, I kind of said it all at the beginning, but I'll just kind of echo a couple of things. Like they tackled some super tough material in terms of story and brought some really sensitive, touchy elements into this season and pulled it off beautifully, man. And all the elements that we love are there. The gore, everything. It's just fantastic, man. Acting solid, dialogue solid, expounding on other characters that didn't get a lot of attention in the first season, got, front and center. I'm looking at you, Maeve, that type of thing. So just fantastic.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that my sassy squirrelness hasn't really reigned supreme here. No, I feel like you guys both made solid arguments in favor of this season, and then my witnessing the second half, I'm really glad that they pulled it off, for sure.
Yeah, me too. We were all worried there, and I think I've said it before, I really have a lot of faith in this crew now to put out great stuff. So I'm looking forward to what they're going to do in the future.
Definitely.
I'm really, really digging Eric Kripke.
He seems to have a really solid team behind him too, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great cast, great crew. I think they're going to do some really fun stuff in the future. I can't wait.
Right on. Algorithm, what are we doing next week?
Next week, we're doing Star Trek Insurrection.
Ooh.
Benny brought this one to the table, and I am pumped to talk about it.
Hey, British Tar. Folks, thanks so much for joining us this week for The Boys S2P2. Hope you liked the episode. Thanks for joining us as always. Follow us on social media at EBD Podcasts, particularly Instagram. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you on another time.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
And that's going to wrap up this week's episode. Folks, you can find the show notes for this episode in your podcast app of choice, or on our website, ebd.fm/episodes/76. You can follow us on social media at EBD Podcast. You can rate us and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, most podcast platforms, believe it or not. And if you really want to help us out, leave us a review. And if you really, really, really want to help us out, tell a friend to check out the show. Word of mouth is the most powerful and effective way to share and grow the show. Thanks for hanging out with us this week for Season 2, Part 2 of The Boys. Stay tuned next week as we cover Star Trek Insurrection. And we'll see you next time. Thanks again, folks.